Defense News. It's proudly sponsored by Navy Federal Credit Union. If you're a member of our nation's armed forces, the Department of Defense, or if your family is, we'd be proud to serve you too.
On this episode of Defense News Weekly, on autonomous Black Hawk, check out the latest advancement in unmanned helicopter technology, and a preview of the new screening process for toxic exposure wounds at the VA. Find out what the process is like to see if you have a claim. And it's Veterans Day. We bring you a selection of special content for the observance. Hear from a Medal of Honor recipient and 3 Vietnam combat helicopter pilots. We got those stories and more with the latest in news and analysis from the Pentagon to the platoon, here on Defense News Weekly. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Andrea Scott. First up this week, a Black Hawk that can do supply runs and casualty evacuation without pilots? It's time for this week's Defense Dollars. If you're flying in a helicopter, you want to make sure your pilot is focused on the controls. But with new technology, that pilot might not exist. Sikorsky demonstrated autonomous flying in the UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter at Yuma, Arizona Proving Ground in October, using the Matrix autonomy system. What kinds of missions would an autonomous utility helicopter fly? The dull, dirty, and dangerous jobs mainly. In this case, Sikorsky and DARPA tested a resupply mission and a casualty evacuation. And while similar tests have maintained a pilot as a backup, this flight was 100% human-free. Sikorsky says its technology can fly 80 miles. Its mission was as low as 200 feet and hit about 115 miles an hour, and even used terrain to mask its signature. The company also tested external cargo missions, carrying 2,600 pounds on a 40-foot sling. Australia will buy 24 C-130s from the United States. The State Department cleared more than $6 billion in possible foreign military sales to Australia, which will allow it to purchase 24 Lockheed Martin-made C-130J-30 Super Hercules. The Pentagon's Defense Security Cooperation Agreement includes missile warning systems, infrared countermeasures, and other equipment and technology for the aircraft. The Royal Australian Air Force plans to use the aircraft to replace its aging cargo fleet and improve the service's capabilities. The Pentagon said in a statement that the fleet will not alter the balance of military power in the Indo-Pacific region. The sale comes as tensions increased recently between China and Australia, which is a key U.S. ally in the region. Media reports revealed that the U.S. Air Force plans to build dedicated B-52 bomber facilities at an airbase in northern Australia, a move that has irked Beijing. During a press conference with reporters, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said that the move of U.S. long-range bombers to Australia may, quote, trigger an arms race in the region. Australian officials downplayed the movement of the U.S. nuclear-capable bombers on the continent, saying that rotating the planes there has been a common practice since the 1980s. The State Department has cleared Finland to buy 150 Lockheed Martin-made guided multiple launch rocket systems and related equipment for $635 million. Logistical considerations are included in the package. In addition to supplying weapons to Ukraine to fight Russia's continued invasion, the United States is also supplying NATO countries in Europe with weaponry to beef up its eastern flank. In the arms sales announcement, the State Department said the GMLRS will better equip Helsinki's air and land defense capability by increasing the Finnish national stockpile. Finland is not yet a NATO country. It applied to join in May, and 28 of the 30 member countries have approved its bid. Hungary and Turkey remain holdouts. In honor of Veterans Day, there's no more fitting time to resurface part of an interview with one of America's most beloved Medal of Honor recipients, World War II veteran Woody Williams. Williams died this year at the age of 98. In an interview from our series, Dear Young American, here's part of what he had to say to the next generation.
Combat in war is different than any other experience anyone can ever have. And you build a bond between individuals. And that bond is so deep that there are those in our armed forces that actually sacrifice their lives for another person. Well, you young Americans, I hate to saddle you with this, but in just a few years, this country is going to be in your charge. The future is going to be in your hands. One of the things that I would advise young people is that circumstances change your life. And all of us have circumstances that happen in our lives that we have absolutely, at the moment, no control of. It's what we do as a result of that circumstance that is the most important thing. If something happens that is good, then we need to multiply that. If it's something that happens that is going to have an effect on our lives, then we must learn how to adjust to that. We live in the greatest country on earth, and we need to be proud and express that fact, what our country really means to us. We need to be appreciative of who we are, what we have, and what others have done, the sacrifices that have been made by others to give us what we have today in America. And there have been many thousands of individuals who entered our armed forces, not just to serve, but also to give, if they had to, their lives. But they do it because of their desire to serve somebody else. And that's part of what makes America great.
When we come back, screening begins for the VA's new burn pit benefits. And later, Vietnam helicopter pilots tell their stories. Welcome back to Defense News Weekly. I'm Andrea Scott. Kicking off our roundup of military headlines. This week marked the launch of a major effort within Veterans Affairs, screening vets for toxic exposure ailments. Beginning November 8th, all patients visiting VA healthcare facilities started getting worried about symptoms that may indicate exposure to harmful toxins, like those from burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan. The process involves a series of questions regarding veterans' time in service, possible exposure to toxins, and current health status.
Do you know if you've been exposed? Are you concerned about exposures you may have had while you're on active duty service? Yeah, that's a good question. I know that during my time in Iraq from '06 to '08, I potentially may have come in contact with burn pits on the camp that I was on.
The backdrop for the new screenings is legislation passed earlier this year, granting benefits to those with toxic exposure wounds, a law known as the PACT Act. Championed by celebrity activist Jon Stewart, the law establishes presumptive benefit status for 12 types of cancer and a dozen respiratory illnesses linked to burn pits. Veterans groups estimate as many as 1 in 5 veterans may receive new benefits under the law. And here in the Capitol, the American Veterans Center held its annual Salute to the Military this week, an event known as American Valor. On hand were celebrities and honorees who talked about the importance of honoring service members.
This is an all-volunteer force. You know, when you sign up, you write a blank check with your body, your life for this country. And someday somebody may come and cash that check, but you write that check. So every veteran, I believe, deserves to be at least shown a little respect. And those that gave the ultimate sacrifice, the last full measure, if you will, we have to take a minute just to stop and just say thank you. That's, I think, the right thing to do, and I'm so glad that we do it.
It's a day of remembering the service that our men and women do and the sacrifice and the courage that it takes to go out there for our freedom.
Highlights from the event included appearances by America's last ace pilot and a paratrooper from the Normandy invasion, Vince Speranza.
When I got home from the war, I was 20 years old. I had headed up to here, killing people and destroying property. And I had made up my mind that I'm going to pick up my life from where I left off from high school and do something else. I became a school teacher, and I was going to build instead of destroy.
This year's event also honored a Tuskegee Airman, an original Rosie the Riveter, and a groundbreaking graduate of West Point, Emily Perez, who was killed in the Iraq War. In lighter fare, want to see how a Chinese missile loader shows off? Well, here you go. The Chinese Defense Ministry recently released a video showing a blindfolded missile battery loader operating the equipment so precisely that he could light a match with a burning incense stick. Not exactly useful wartime skill, but you know, gotta pass the time. So, now you've seen that. When we come back, our personal finance expert talks about what kind of resources are available to support your small business. Welcome back. On this edition of Money Minute, Navy Federal Credit Union personal finance expert Jeanette Mack gives her latest tips on finding the resources you need to support cash flow in your small business.
If your next mission is business ownership, the tried and true tools for success start with the basics. Understanding your cash flow and how to remain profitable. One of the first steps to better managing your business finances is setting up a dedicated checking and savings account. Because when it comes to your money, it's not okay to mix business with pleasure. Keep your business and personal accounts separated. And just like any mission plan, everything you do has a purpose. Give each of your business accounts a specific function and check in monthly to know where your money's going and what you're saving. Next, develop a relationship with a bank or credit union. You'll need a lender you can trust to give you great guidance and business credit. Most business owners don't start off with a fortune, so business loans and credit cards are crucial to getting up and running. And once you're off the ground, it takes proper preparation, planning, and communication to reach the end goal, which is a profitable business. That's why that lender relationship is so important. There are lots of programs to help active duty and veterans take on their mission of business ownership. So check the SBA's website for more info and talk to your lender to get off to a great start.
Thanks, Jeanette. We'll see you next time. To get more coverage of military and defense issues, set your compass to Army, Navy, Air Force, and MarineCorpsTimes.com and DefenseNews.com for more stories. And want to stay on top of headlines each day without a ton of effort? Sign up for our early bird brief to get headlines delivered to your inbox each weekday. And it's even in audio. Check out the podcast version out now. And when we come back, hear from Vietnam War helicopter pilots about their experiences. Welcome back. Nearly 12,000 helicopters saw action in Vietnam. By war's end, nearly half of the aircraft and 5,000 pilots and crew members would be lost. Flying a helicopter was a dangerous mission, and these first-hand accounts give a sense of the fortitude it took to do the job. Let's take a look.
About half the time we were doing downed aircraft recovery, so to work with a downed aircraft recovery, we would be sitting back at our base camp or our hooches, getting a suntan or reading a book or taking a nap or whatever, and they would blow a horn in the operations center, and we would have 1 minute to get off the ground.
Most of the time we were doing things like logistics support. We flew a lot of combat assaults, which is a direct insertion of infantry into combat. We did a lot of things with special operations, marine recon. Those are the basic types of missions that we flew.
Our mission was to go out to where the wounded were located. I flew 2,752 missions, combat missions, and evacuated 2,900 and I think 32 patients.
In most cases, we knew we were going to recover a downed aircraft that was probably shot down. Nobody lands in the middle of bad guy country purposely. They do it because they have to.
Basically, we'd get a call from a ground unit, either Vietnamese or American, and we'd go out to the site of the wounding, and they would try to secure an area for us to land, and we oftentimes took hits. Those pictures that you saw of the guy standing on the ground with his weapon or waving us into tiny holes in the jungle or out in the rice paddies, that's where we picked the wounded up.
I'm 19 years old, going on 20. First lieutenant, got promoted to captain in April of '69.
I think the average age of the pilot over there was about 23, and I was their flight leader at 20 and turned 21 when I was in country.
I was 28 years old when I went over the first time, was a brand new captain, and then I was 32 when I went back for my second tour.
My first encounter with a hot LZ was during my what we call in-country orientation. It was a two-ship landing zone, and the first aircraft, the lead aircraft, was blown up in the landing zone, which blocked anybody else from being able to get in.
Personally, I don't remember the first time I was shot at. We expected to be shot at every time we got in the seat and strapped on the aircraft, and in most cases our expectation was correct.
We would approach the area at about 1,000 feet, drop the collective on the helicopter and go into about a 2,000 feet a minute rate of descent at 100 knots and try to hold that almost to the ground.
A lot of times you only had like 15 or 20 seconds on the ground to discharge your troops, let them offload before it was time for you to leave, because the next flight coming in was right behind you.
The method we used was try to get in and get out as fast as we could, because if you spent much time on the ground or you were slow approaching or taking off, you were most vulnerable at that time.
An approach to an LZ that was a noisy, confusing, tension-raising experience every time. You never got used to the loud noise and the distractions.
Gunfire going into a landing zone actually sounded like popcorn. So if you listen to a popcorn popper on your stove or in the microwave, that's what gunfire sounded like as you were landing.
A round came up and bounced off the collective and hit my left thumb here and lacerated it. And then something hit me hard. My head flew back and hit the back of the seat.
The lead aircraft was blown up in the landing zone. The command and control aircraft, which had the unit commander in it, basically told us to break off the approach. We had 4 more helicopters with troops. Told us to break off the approach and not land. We ignored that.
I was the lead flight of the lead aircraft for the first bridge, and my number 2 aircraft got a little bit too close, and he actually cut my tail rudder off as we hit the landing zone.
What had happened, a bullet had come through the windshield down here where it bolts into the frame, hit my helmet right here between my eyes, and came out back here behind my ear. And when it came through, it brought a bunch of metal and plexiglass with it and hit me here. It filled my left eye full of metal and plexiglass, had a piece about that big sticking right here in the corner.
We ignored that and went ahead and landed anyway. Discharged our troops for security for the people on the ground, but more importantly, we landed to pick up the wounded to get them to to medical care. In doing that, somebody had to get out of the helicopter, and that's when we discovered that not only were there mines and booby traps, but we were being shot at as well.
We immediately went subconsciously into the emergency procedure for a loss of tail rotor control. So I started doing that, and we got turned around about 180 degrees, and I think I was about 6 feet eyeball to eyeball with the pilot and the other aircraft, and said, this isn't right.
But we did it and got the wounded crew out and to the nearest hospital.
Cut my nose, and it chipped out a hole in my head up here and chipped out a hole back here. But I spent 5 days in the hospital and was back flying again.
And that's all we have time for this week. Please visit us on militarytimes.com and defensenews.com for more coverage. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.